This story starts off with this kid getting his ass whooped by his stepdad because he was taking too damn long to eat and looking like a little punk. The poor kid keeps apologizing, but his pops just keep swinging, and his mom's sitting there not giving a damn. It's some messed up dream from back in the day of our main character, Memori, and he wakes up to find the class president getting straight up roasted. This bully dude named Sagu is the culprit, and he's holding Ayaka's book hostage. Sagu takes it to the next level by reading some cheesy romance novel out loud to the whole class, and everyone else is just ignoring the whole thing. They're all on a field trip, and Memori can't help but notice how all his classmates are keeping their heads down, acting like they can't see the bullying, while the popular kids are cracking up. And the teacher, that dude couldn't care less and just sleeps through the whole damn ordeal. Memori thinks maybe he'd look pretty badass if he stepped in, but then he remembers he's just a nobody and ain't gonna change a damn thing. Ayaka's had enough and gets all frustrated, so Memori surprises everyone by standing up to Sagu and telling him to give Ayaka her damn book. Sagu's actually kind of impressed that Memori's finally growing a pair, but he still refuses to give the book back and starts messing with Memori instead. Out of nowhere, one of the popular kids named Kirihara tells Sagu to cut the crap because he's sick of all the drama. Everyone thinks Kirihara's a badass for taking charge, and Sagu apologizes to Ayaka, but Sagu's still pissed at Memori for standing up to him, so he starts picking on the quiet kid in class. Finally, the teacher wakes his lazy ass up and tells Sagu to knock it off, saying that Sagu can't go bullying people when he's not in charge. Funny thing is, Memori actually agrees with Sagu because standing up like that ain't his style at all. He figures he only did it because of that messed up dream he had. And just when things couldn't get any weirder, all the students freak the hell out because they get teleported to some freaky place. Some lady pops up and calls herself Vicious, a goddess from another world. She says they're heroes summoned to her world because some evil demon empire is making a comeback. The heroes from 200 years ago beat them once, but now the evil's back, and these students are the new heroes. She asks them to lend her their power. The students ain't buying this whole different world crap and think it's all some messed up dream, or maybe they all died in a damn car crash. Everyone's freaking out, but the teacher's trying to play it cool by saying he's there. But let's be real, dude's useless and just tells them to listen to the goddess. Memori takes a look around and sees all this ancient stuff, plus the goddess with her golden eyes, and he starts thinking they're in some other damn world. Kirihara wonders what'll happen if they don't agree to fight the demon empire, and then the goddess drops the bomb that they won't be able to go back home. The only way to do this reverse summoning thing is by using this special element called the Demon King's essence, and there are only two ways to get it. One is by snatching the Demon King's heart, and the other is by collecting the Demon King's essence that gets released when they beat the Demon King and putting it in a crystal necklace. Sagu's getting pissed about being forced to fight, but the goddess is begging for their help because apparently they're the heroes of salvation. Ayaka points out that they're just regular-ass humans and far from being heroes, but the goddess insists they got powers no one else has. Memori's getting a weird vibe, though, and he can't help but feel something's off. Sagu's done with this prank shit already, and Memori realizes the goddess is the one pissing him off. All of a sudden, the students are straight up horrified when they bring out a prisoner to be chowed down by a monster. The goddess straight up obliterates the monster with some fire spell, but the students are still in denial, thinking it's all some CGI trick. The goddess changes the subject and announces it's time to reveal everyone's hidden skills. They all take turns touching this crystal ball, and when it lights up, it means they got some special ability. The summoners lose their shit when Sagu's light shines bright, meaning he's got some insane power. Sagu's doing a 180 on the whole situation and thinks being a hero sounds dope now. Next up is Kirihara, and the sorcerers can't believe their eyes when his power straight up shatters the crystal ball. That means he's S-class, the top rank in the game. Sagu is a class below, so he points out how Kirihara is better than everyone, no matter which world they're in. Ayaka is also an S-class hero, and the goddess is shocked when they find out there's a third S-rank hero among them. Normally, they are lucky to just get one, so she declares that this is the best summoning ever. Finally, it's Memori's turn, and he's clueless when his crystal glows purple. He also notices his glow is the weakest of them all. Memori's curious what class he is, but the goddess straight up ignores him, leaving him hanging. Memori realizes that he's a no one again, feeling like a nobody, just like back in my old world, but he's cool with it, embracing his no one status. And then out of nowhere, the quiet kid in class makes the crystal glow all black. The goddess explains that it only happened once before when the dark hero touched the crystal, and that dude ended up being one of the strongest A-rank heroes ever. The quiet kid starts laughing like a maniac and declares he always knew his time would come. Shortly after, the goddess shows everyone how to check their stats. Memori notices his stats seem pretty low, and he's got this unique skill called status ailments. Those unique skills are exclusive to the person who's got them, and the heroes can unlock more later on. Sagu's getting bored of all the explanations and just wants to get into hero mode. The teacher tells him to show some respect to the goddess, but Sagu shuts him down, saying the teacher's just a D-class hero. Then the goddess calls out Memori, shocking everyone. Memori's clueless as to why, so the goddess explains that he's the lowest rank among all the summoned heroes, an E-class. Apparently history's shown that the weakest hero always holds the others back, so they started getting rid of the weakest one in every summoning. It scared the shit out of the other heroes, but the summoners decided to switch things up. Instead, they decided to give even the lowest ranked hero one chance to survive. They'd test them by teleporting them to some ruins. If they survive and make it back up, they're free to live their lives. Memori's wondering how dangerous these ruins are, but nobody knows. They've spent countless criminals and heroes to the ruins, but none have come back. They call them the Ruins of Disposal. Memori tries to get out of it by mentioning his unique skill, but the goddess tells him that status ailment skills like his ain't worth much. They got a low success rate, and even when they work, they ain't that effective and don't last long. The goddess points out that his stats are also low, and even if he levels up, they won't improve much. Memori defends himself, saying it's unfair to summon him only to punish him, but Kirihara tells him to just go already, and everyone else is hurrying him up too. But Memori feels a little better when this kid named Yasu asks if he's okay. Yasu's the quiet dude in class, and he's always been nice to Memori. Things have changed now, though, and Yasu reminds Memori that he's the lowest rank. Yasu ain't even trying to talk to a low rank like Memori. He straight up calls him Mr. Trash Hero, and damn, Memori can't feel any worse. Then the goddess kicks off the ritual. When heroes get summoned, they usually get some dope unique item, but all Memori gets is a sorry-ass leather bag. The gem on the bag only glows when you pour magic in it. That's it. Out of nowhere, Ayaka steps up for Memori, which is hella surprising, but the goddess shuts her down and knocks her out. She tells everyone to forget about Memori because he's a goner. She sees all the other heroes as winners and wants them to witness the tragic fate that's waiting for losers like Memori. But hold up, Memori finally shows some determination. He gets mad as hell and tries to paralyze the goddess with a spell. No dice though. Turns out as a goddess, she's got a constant dispelled barrier that gives her total defense against status ailment spells. She bids farewell to the trash hero, but everyone's stunned when Kirihara busts out an attack spell. He apologizes, though, because he was just testing it out. The ritual keeps going, and everybody's just relieved they ain't wasting their time no more. The goddess asks if Memori's got any last words, but all he does is start crying. Then we see Memori talking to his younger self. He's sobbing, and his other self tells him that no matter how much he hides it and acts all harmless, he can't keep his true self under wraps forever. He tells himself to show everyone who he really is and stop suppressing his true colors. Finally, Memori reveals his true self when he ditches his weak persona and starts cussing out the goddess. Everybody's shocked, and Memori declares that if he makes it out alive, they better be ready for him. Then he gets teleported to the ruins, and it's pitch black. So he pours magic into the gem and starts exploring. But damn, Memori barely dodges an attack from a monster and hauls ass for his life. Memori's shaking as he runs because he can feel the massive power gap between him and that monster. Fear's taken over, and he tries to hide the glowing gem because he thinks it's attracting the beast. As he keeps running, Memori realizes he ain't scared. No, the feeling inside him is straight up frustration. He ain't got no weapons, all his stats are garbage, and his skills useless. So Memori figures this is where his life comes to an end. But out of nowhere, Memori finds some determination. He declares that he wants power and uses his paralyzation skill to freeze the terrifying monster in its tracks. Memori bolts and thinks about how the goddess said status ailment skills hardly ever work. He wonders if it was a miracle. But then he spots another monster in front of him. Memori can feel the hostility radiating from it, and it's overpowering. But he wants to live, so he shocks himself when his paralyzed skill works again. That makes him realize that his skill ain't just some one-time miracle. He starts wondering if it's something totally different from the magic in this world. Memori's running on fumes now. The boost the hero's got is all used up, and his own magic power is practically gone. He's scared it won't be enough to use his skill. But damn, he's surprised when he manages to cast a poison spell on the monster. The success rate is high, and it don't even matter what rank the monster is. The effect lasts a long ass time too. Memori tells the monster not to be mad at him because it was trying to take his life too. Now Memori's completely drained of magic power, and he wonders what'll happen if he tries to use his status ailment skill again. Just then, that monster from earlier shows up once more. Memori wonders if someone's gonna swoop in and save him like in the movies. But then he remembers how everyone treated him like shit before and how he got beat as a kid. All that pent-up frustration reaches its peak, and Memori realizes he's just a background character. Nobody's coming to rescue him. Memori knows he can't rely on others. His only option is to fight for his survival. His inner self craves conquest, so he declares that the fight for his life starts right now. He tries to paralyze the freaking Minotaur again, but this time the damn skill doesn't work. So Memori has to freaking jump out of the way. The system tells him he can't cast the same effect multiple times on one target. So he comes up with a new plan and puts the Minotaur to sleep, making it fall flat on its face, out cold. Once the monster is knocked out, Memori slaps some poison on it too. Seems like there are no rules against stacking effects, but damn, he's out of mana. If he keeps using his skills, he'll run out of energy too, and he still has a bunch of monsters to deal with. Memori starts spamming paralysis like crazy, and eventually, he manages to stop all the monsters, but it leaves him ready to pass out. But his troubles ain't over yet, because more damn monsters start coming his way, so he's forced to keep using Paralyze until his body can't take it anymore. It doesn't take long before he hits his limit and can't go on. There are still a ton of monsters around, but if he tries to use his skill one more time, he'll be done for. He's got no other options, but luckily, just as he's about to give out completely, the cockatrice he poisoned earlier suddenly kicks the bucket, and because of that, Memori's level shoots up to 258, and his mana and stamina get replenished. Memori doesn't get what the hell happened at first, but then he sees the dead monster and figures he must have gained experience because his poison did the job. And now that he's got his energy back, he can keep fighting as much as he needs to. He keeps spamming paralysis, and his skill levels up, making him think he can upgrade it with repeated use, but he'll worry about that later because right now, he's got to make sure he gets the hell out of this place in one piece. With paralysis now at level 2, Memori notices he can target multiple monsters at once, so he does just that, and the monsters all freeze in their tracks. So far, his status effects have a 100% success rate. So it seems like Vicious is the only person in this world who's immune to his skill. He starts poisoning all the paralyzed monsters, and his poison skill levels up too. But there are still a ton of monsters around, which means more chances to level up. Memori checks his status window, and since he leveled up, his stats are way better than when he first got here, especially his mana, which is now over 8,000. And mana is the only thing keeping him alive in this godforsaken place. Memori takes a breather and sits his ass down while he waits for the poison to do its thing. And before long, the monsters start dropping like flies, boosting Memori's level even higher. By the time he reaches level 500, Memori is pretty damn confident he can make it out of the ruins. So he gets ready to kick some more monster ass. But after seeing Memori effortlessly kill dozens of them, the monsters ain't stupid. They know better than to mess with him, so they all run the hell away. Now that the area's safe, Memori scours through piles of decaying bones, hoping to find some useful loot, and after grabbing a cloak and a blade, he sets off to escape ruins. As he searches for the exit, he comes across all sorts of monsters. But he's realized he's got another problem. He's got no food, so he's gonna starve if he doesn't find something to eat soon. He's so desperate. He's even willing to chow down on monster meat. So, after he retraces his steps, he goes back to the monster corpses and reluctantly starts carving into them to munch on whatever he can. But as he tries to chow down on the eyeball, he realizes the monster's got acid in it, so eating it ain't gonna happen. With no food source, Memori thinks he'll freaking starve to death before he can escape this hole. He's got 0 energy left in his body, but then he notices his magic bag changing color, and since it's the only light he's got, he rushes over like crazy to give it more mana. Something freaking appears inside the bag, to his freaking delight. He finds a bag of beef and a bottle of juice. He starts eating like mad. This means his hunger problem's solved for now, but he ain't sure if the bag will produce food again as time goes on in this damn ruins. Memori's gotten used to massacring monsters with his skills, but he's worried he might be losing his humanity because of it. Back on Earth, after suffering abuse from his stepfather, Memori was on the brink of becoming a freaking villain right there and then. But before he lost his sense of humanity, his aunt and uncle saved his sorry ass, took him in, and showed him what normal life was like. They taught him empathy, and he thought he became a normal person like them. But now, as he stares at the freaking pile of corpses beneath him, he feels jack shit. There's no going back to who he was before. So Memori just accepts he's a freaking psychopath now and moves on. As he goes, he comes across another part of the ruins with a floating eyeball monster. But Memori just takes it out with his poison. As he moves forward, he finds a door with a magic lock. When he opens it, he sees a small room with 2 freaking skeletons. He figures they were probably people Vicious tossed away, but they didn't make it out alive. Memori searches through their stuff and finds a bag full of gems. So, while he feels a bit guilty about robbing the dead, the gems could be valuable and he could use them once he gets the hell out of here. So, he no longer feels guilty about it. He checks out the other nearby rooms too, and eventually, he comes across one that takes a shitload of mana to open. But once he finally unlocks it, he finds a skeleton sitting there with a note next to it. The note says the skeleton used to be a dude named Anglin, the Great Sage, and he was the former hero of darkness, the same one Vicious mentioned as the strongest of them all. According to Anglin's note, Vicious sent him here against his will after she didn't need him as a hero anymore, and even though he was strong enough to make it this far, he couldn't escape, so he left a message to help the next person who could make it here. Vicious may have called the Demon Lord evil, but in Memori's eyes, she's just as freaking bad. Although he can't say he's much better because his only goal is to get revenge on her, even if it means destroying the world. As he loots Anglin's corpse, he finds a book of forbidden arts, packed with info on medicine recipes and magic tool instructions that could come in handy later. So, he decides to keep it. He also finds a scroll of forbidden magic, but he can't understand what the hell it says. But if a great sage like Anglin went through all the trouble to keep it hidden with him until his last moments, it must be freaking powerful. And maybe, just maybe, it's strong enough for Memori to eventually defeat the goddess if he can ever figure it out. Memori's about to bounce, but before he dips, he jacks Anglin's dope cloak because it's way cooler than his old raggedy one. He takes another look at Anglin's book and sees a bloody warning that says, "Watch out for the Soul Eater." That shit's got him thinking if this Soul Eater is the one who offed Anglin. Memori keeps moving through the ruins, thinking this door ahead might lead him out of this hellhole. But if it's the final door, that means the Soul Eater Anglin mentioned could be lurking there too. Memori stays on his guard, checking his stats to make sure he's ready for this shit. He did everything he could to level up before reaching this point, so he's hoping his skills are enough to take it down. Eventually, he stumbles upon a creepy-ass face, and he's pretty sure that's the Soul Eater, so he tries to paralyze right away. But as soon as he steps out of cover, the Soul Eater blasts a laser straight into his hand. This is the first time anything's been able to stop him from using his skills. And Memori's got to kill this thing since he can only escape by using the gem on his forehead to activate his skill. He's got to say it out loud and be close enough. But none of that matters if the Soul Eater can attack him before he finishes casting the spell. While Memori's still figuring out his next move, the Soul Eater breaks through the wall, coming after his ass. So now he's got no damn choice but to fight. Meanwhile, outside the ruins, some chick's trying to escape from her pursuers and decides to hide nearby, clueless that a fierce battle's going on inside. As the Soul Eater slowly creeps up on Memori, he's wondering why the hell it hasn't blasted him with lasers yet. But he soon finds out as the Soul Eater spits out some purple goo that takes the form of humans. These are the souls of the people the Soul Eater devoured, and they're being forced to attack Memori. So he's forced to paralyze them. But he can't bring himself to use poison because even though they're all gross, they're still human. The Soul Eater gets off on watching Memori struggle because he can't attack the souls for moral reasons. And he can't attack the Soul Eater because it reacts too damn fast. Memori starts breaking down and crying like crazy because he don't want to hurt nobody, and his constant crying drains his aura. But as the Soul Eater's enjoying Memori's tears, he reveals it was all an act and paralyzes the Soul Eater. He knew he couldn't successfully paralyze the Soul Eater unless he tricked it. So he faked a mental breakdown to throw the Soul Eater off. Now that the Soul Eater's paralyzed, Memori don't give a damn about the souls. If killing the Soul Eater means those soul puppets got to die, so be it. He's gonna poison him anyway. The Soul Eater struggles to move out of frustration, which lets Memori know that his paralysis can mess up powerful monsters and do extra damage. It's a cool discovery and all, but he ain't trying to waste any more time here. So he casts poison on the Soul Eater and straight up annihilates it. As he does, the souls that were consumed by the Soul Eater are set free, and they all show up in front of Memori to thank him for freeing them. They've been rooting for him as he tried to survive in the ruins, and they don't even mind that he looted their bodies. Anglin approaches Memori and has one request: take down the goddess and avenge them all. After that, the souls pass on. Now, normally Memori wouldn't accept a request without some kind of reward, but he was already planning on taking down the goddess anyway, and now that the final monster's been defeated, Memori can open that door and start his quest for revenge on the surface. In the forests outside the royal capital, the rest of Memori's homies are out there slaying demons to level up, while she's chasing down a demon dog with a sword. Kirihara straight up burns another monster with his 6th skill and levels up to 18 like a boss. In another spot, the geek Yasu, who's done a complete 180 with his personality, straight up roasts some monsters with his dark fire powers and busts out laughing when he hears them cry, mad far away from them. There's this shy and innocent chick named Koba, who's hella hesitant to kill any monsters. But this bully chick named Asagi tells her she gotta take them down or she gonna lose her life because it's the first test the goddess gave them. Asagi got Koba on a tight leash and tells her that soon the crew gonna fall apart and different groups gonna form because there's a lot of selfish peeps in the mix. Asagi's a B rank and she got plans to start her own crew with the girls who roll with her. She knows Koba's just a D rank, so she ain't gonna be accepted by Kirihara's crew or the other big shots. And Ayaka can't take her in because she on the brink of death. Koba starts freaking out when she hears this, but Asagi tells her not to sweat the small stuff. She just wants Koba to be her cute little toy. And to prove her loyalty, Asagi got her girls in the crew to trap a monster for her to finish off easy. Asagi tells Koba she got to kill the monster and pass the test from Vicious, or else she gonna be dumped like Memori. Koba don't want to kill that monster, but Asagi keeps pushing her, basically making her do it. Eventually, she takes down the monster, but that act of violence straight up wrecks her, and she starts remembering when Memori helped out a hurt stray kitten. She starts crying, thinking she couldn't do shit to help Memori. Meanwhile, Ayaka also comes to her senses, and the pain in her gut reminds her how the goddess knocked her out before sending Memori away. She straight up goes to confront Goddess Vicious, who's putting on some weak-ass act, saying she was hurt too when she sent Memori into danger. But it's their kingdom's policy. She says the ritual of getting rid of the weakest member gonna keep going, and while Ayaka was knocked out, she already sent away all the weaklings who couldn't even kill one demon. Ayaka straight up hates the goddess now and tells her she's doing shit all wrong. Vicious just laughs it off, saying everyone got their own opinions, but she ain't gonna change her ways. Then Ayaka suggests to Vicious that as an S-rank hero, she gonna work her ass off and cover for those who ain't performing well enough. In return, she wants Vicious to stop banishing them. Vicious agrees to the idea and asks Ayaka to shake hands, start fresh, and bury the past. Mad far away from them, in the dark-ass forests near some abandoned ruins, this chick is running from a bunch of nasty bandits chasing her, but she being careless as hell, leaving easy clues for the bandits. Those fools planning to let her run till they corner her and straight up hunt her down. At the same time, Memori just made it out of them ruins. He checking out his stats and seeing his mana over 59,000. But what really catching his interest is the details of his skills right now. He finding out he can use his paralyzed skill on specific body parts, not just the whole body. He can even weaken his poison skill so it ain't lethal. He planning to test that shit out when he runs into some demons. But as he keep walking, he hears squeaking sounds from behind the trees. Turns out a bunch of slimes bullying a smaller slime, and Memori feeling sorry for the little dude. But that little slime got more guts than your average bullied kid and starts fighting back against the bullies. Memori thinking it's the perfect time to test out his new skills, so he paralyzes all them slimes and uses non-lethal poison on the bully slimes. Then he removes the poison and paralysis from the bullies and makes them run off. He turns to the small slime and tells it that it did real good standing up to the bullies. Memori says he gonna release it from the paralyzed state and asks it not to attack him. He lets go of the paralysis and keeps walking, but the slime starts following him instead. Memori thinking that slime an outcast like him, so he decides to adopt it. He puts the slime in his hood to keep watch behind his back and warn him if there's any danger. Meanwhile, Memori reading this book on forbidden arts by the Dark Hero. There's a recipe for a medicine that can make slimes even stronger. Memori talks to the little slime, telling it he on a journey for revenge against those who wronged him. He asks the slime if it still wants to roll with him, and it says hell yeah. Memori's stoked to hear that and names the slime Pigimaru, and the slime digging its new name. Memori keeps moving forward, and out of nowhere, he gets surrounded by the bandits who were after that mysterious woman. The bandits was trying to wear her out, but they picked up another presence along the way, so now they here for some fun. The bandit leader tells Memori to hand over all his valuable shit if he want alive. Memori straight up terrified now because them bandits looking scary as hell, and he ain't never fought no humans before. The bandits start arguing about whether they should hurry up and catch the girl or waste time with random nobodies. And just when Memori thinking he can sneak away, the bandit leader tells him to stop right there. Memori pleads with the bandit leader, begging for his life, but that just amps up the bandit's desire to kill him. Dude charges at him, but Memori was just playing scared. He uses his paralyzed skill to freeze the bandit leader in his tracks. And then he takes his sweet time to rip into the bandits, calls them scum because even though they weaker than the ruined demons, their evil intentions run deep. Even Pigimaru is pissed off at these punks. Memori straight up says he won't lose sleep over killing these kinds of people. He actually happy he lightened Earth's load. He casts a poison spell on all the bandits, and once they all kick the bucket, Memori senses another presence nearby. It's the mystery girl, and she got some fancy technique from her tribe that summons a spiritual armor to protect herself. She feels Memori's power too, but ain't sure what to make of it. The girl ain't taking no chances, so she swings her sword through a bush where Pigimaru was hiding. Right then, Memori sneaks up behind her and paralyzes her. She stutters, asking what he wants, and he says he just needs info because he new to this area and clueless. Girl asks about the 4 bandits, and Memori wonders if they her crew. She denies it, and he believes her because she ain't ooze evil like them. He removes the paralysis from her head so she can talk free, and warns her not to pull any funny business or he gonna end her. Memori steps in front of her and straight up says he don't trust no one, especially strangers he meeting for the first time. Before he can start grilling her, she asks what happened to the bandits. Memori tells her he killed them all, and she can't believe it because those thugs supposed to be real tough. She asks if he fought them alone or got help, but he ain't spilling the details. Girl thinks Memori ain't a bad dude, so she decides to trust him and says she'll answer any questions honestly. Memori starts trusting her a bit more because of her cooperative attitude, but he ain't letting her off the hook just yet. They start chatting, and Memori finds out he ain't in the alien kingdom, but in the Urza Kingdom's forest to the south. He picks up a ton of info and finally asks if she can read the forbidden spell scroll. She tells him it's written in some ancient script that barely anyone can read, but she knows someone who can. She spills the beans about the Forbidden Witch, a dangerous woman vanished from her homeland because she knew too much. Girl tells Memori if he wants to meet the witch, he got to head to the Golden Demon Zone. This risky-ass area smack in the middle of the continent. Memori thanks her for the intel, and she thanks him too because he saved her from the bandits. Memori says they even now, and the girl wishes him the best of luck. He thinks she too honest and innocent for her own good, reminds him of his aunt. Anyway, he says his goodbyes, telling the girl the paralysis gonna wear off in a few minutes so she can go on her way. Piggymaru hops behind Memori and chills on his shoulder. They talk about how it's unlikely the girl gonna attack once she free from the paralysis. But Memori still wants his slime buddy watching his back just in case. He ready to help in any way he can. Memori rolls up to town and gets stopped at the gate by a guard handling security. The guard figures Memori must be a traveling mercenary looking to claim the mill's ruins. Memori plays along, saying he's indeed here to conquer the ruins and that he's from a small town, so he doesn't really know much about this place. The guard buys his story and lets him in, since she's been told to let as many mercenaries through as possible. Memori's kind of surprised by how chill the security is, no luggage checks or body searches. But it's working out in his favor since everything's going according to plan. First thing he does is head to an inn to book a room, but the innkeeper's being a total jerk, assuming Memori's just a broke loser. What he doesn't know is that Memori's got a stash of cash from looting the Holy Watchers. So when Memori flashes some money, the innkeeper's attitude flips, and he starts treating him way better. Memori gets his room sorted, and now that his stay is taken care of, he heads out to explore the town. Even though he's an outsider, no one's giving him any grief. He takes a leisurely stroll, checking out various places like item shops and the local adventurers guild. This might come in handy later, but right now, Memori's got an appetite. So he heads to a nearby tavern for some food. The food's not great, but it's decent enough to eat. He thinks the tavern's pretty cool because the people are all happy and drunk, making it easy to eavesdrop on conversations. While he's hanging out, he overhears a group chatting about how the continent is full of insanely strong people. They get into a heated debate about who's the strongest, but they all agree that only one team can claim the title: the Black Dragon Knights, who totally wrecked the kingdom of Mia. Their 5 dragons alone could wipe out any army, and with humanity's strongest and the hero slayer on their team, they'd win any direct fight. After soaking up the gossip, Memori heads back to his room with some leftover rice for Piggymaru. While Piggymaru is chowing down, Memori goes over his plans. His top priority now is finding someone who can read the forbidden magic scrolls, and the only person who can do that is the Witch of Tabos. Another thing on Memori's to-do list is whipping up a monster strengthening brew to boost Piggymaru's skills. But now that he's thinking about it, the town's nobleman's been rounding up mercenaries to tackle the mill's ruins, and one of the ingredients for the brew is the bones of skeleton soldiers. Lucky for him, those skeletons are chilling in the mill's dungeon, so Memori plans to hit it up tomorrow. The next day, all the mercenaries gather to hear what Lord Marquis has to say. Marquis spills that a new floor in the ruins has been found and tells everyone to explore it. He dangles a reward of 300 gold pieces for anyone who grabs the Dragon Eye Chalice from the ruins. Plus, he's willing to pay for any other loot they bring back, and they can use any monster parts they find however they want. Memori's pumped because that means he can snag the skeleton bones he needs. Once the terms are clear, everyone lines up to register. While Memori's waiting, he notices a guy at the end of the line making a scene. This dude keeps going on about how one girl in line is super pretty, like she could be a princess or something, maybe even the Princess Knight from the fallen kingdom of Nia, who has a bounty on her head. Turns out, a few years back, this guy asked the princess out, and she shot him down. Since then, he's had her face burned into his memory, and now he's hell-bent on getting revenge. She's gone out of her way to stay covered, so this guy must have some crazy skills to recognize her just from her aura. Anyway, he tries to prove he's right by pulling off her cloak, but he's stunned to see the girl's face isn't Princess Sarah's. She says her name is Mist. The guy swears he's never messed up an ID before, so he figures she's actually Ashra, but he's got no proof. Now he's out for revenge against Mist and any other hot chicks who make him look stupid. Later on, Memori's shopping for supplies for the mission when the girl approaches him. She asks if he's also here to check out the dungeon. Memori recognizes her and feels bad. She's dealing with so many people trying to unmask her, but she says it's no biggie since she disguised her face ahead of time. Still, Memori suggests she be careful about guys like that, even if he doesn't know her real identity right now. He seems petty enough to try something just because she embarrassed him. Memori then tells her he has a favor to ask. He explains that he's clueless about the value of items in this town and needs her help to negotiate so he doesn't get ripped off. He's not asking her to do it for free, he promises to pay her for her help. She decides to accept since she's pretty much broke right now. They shake hands, and she introduces herself as Mist. While Memori goes by the name Hattie, they go shopping together, and with Mist negotiating, she saves Memori about 3 silver coins on deals. He gives her the 3 silver coins as payment. She's surprised to get this much just for helping him shop. But Memori thinks it's a fair reward for her help. She accepts the money and is about to leave. But as she walks away, she collapses. Memori asks if she's okay, and she says she's fine, just really tired from not sleeping well for the past few days. She then leaves, and Memori decides to head to the ruins to start hunting skeletons. In the ruins, as Memori is going down the stairs, he hears some mercenaries screaming as they run past him, saying there's a little ox demon down there. Memori figures it's a mini version of the minotaurs he fought in the ruins of Disposal. The ox demon charges at him, but Memori quickly paralyzes and poisons it, so it's not much of a threat. He then stabs the demon to test if its skin is as tough as the ones in the abandoned ruins, but this one's easier to stab. A little while later, those mercenaries come back with backup to defeat the ox demon, but they're shocked to find it dead already. Realizing someone killed it quickly, Memori heads deeper into the ruins. Despite all the monsters around, none of them feel like much of a threat since they're easy to kill. He's not getting much experience from killing them either, so he decides to go deeper into the ruins to find stronger monsters. While walking through the halls, Memori overhears that loser from earlier talking to a couple of mercenaries. The guy's asking them to go after Mist and make her regret ever being born just because she didn't want to date him and made him look bad. He's ranting about how he wants her to suffer as much as possible before they kill her, so he can see the twisted look of despair on her face first. The mercenaries think it's messed up to go this far just because she ignored him. But money talk wish it walk, so they agree and start talking about how they'll torture her. Memori hears all this and knows these guys are irredeemable scumbags, so he's not about to let them get away with their plans. He steps out to confront them. As soon as they see him, they threaten to kill Memori, but he just raises his hand and paralyzes them all. Then he poisons them, feeling oddly satisfied to take out some scumbags. After dealing with them, Memori continues exploring the ruins. Before heading to the next level, he decides to take a little break. 3 hours later, Memori wakes up from his nap and thanks Pigamaru for keeping watch. He exits the room to head to the next floor, but runs into a team of mercenaries. They warn him to be careful since there's a lot of weird stuff happening in the ruins. People have been finding a lot of dead monsters with no clear signs of attack. It looks like they just dropped dead. The leader of the Saber Tigers, Lily, values her teammates' lives more than anything. Normally, she'd continue exploring, but she decides to head back to the surface. She even offers to let Memori come with her, but he says he wants to keep exploring. So Lily and her team wish him good luck. Memori knows all the unexplained deaths are because of him, but it works out well since it means fewer mercenaries will show up in the ruins. Memori goes deeper until he arrives at the room with the dragon chalice. There's a giant gargoyle statue right beside it. It looks harmless, but Memori isn't stupid. He casts Paralyze and Poison on the statue, and sure enough, it turns out to be a monster and soon ends up dying. Memori's finally got his hands on the dragon chalice, and right after he grabs it, Mist shows up looking bummed that she didn't beat him here. Memori doesn't really care about the chalice, so he tells her she can have it if she wants. Mist can't believe he's just giving away something worth 300 gold coins and asks what he wants in return. Memori honestly doesn't need anything from her. Mist says she can't accept something so valuable for free, but Memori insists she should just take it and get some proper sleep soon, or she'll end up collapsing. She still feels weird about accepting it, so Memori tells her he never cared about the chalice anyway. What he's actually after is deeper in the ruins, so Mist offers to be his bodyguard while he's down there. The only thing she can offer is her sword skills, and she promises not to be a burden. Memori agrees, but with a couple of conditions. They don't ask too many personal questions, and he might not head back to the surface for a while. So if Mist wants to bail, he won't be responsible for her safety. Mist agrees, so they head down to the next floor. Mist proves her worth by slicing up a giant flower monster, and Memori's impressed. He's curious about something, though he's noticed some monsters have golden eyes and some don't, so he asks her what the deal is. Mist explains that monsters with golden eyes are loaded with experience, making them prime targets for heroes from another world to level up. She doesn't know Memori's one of those heroes, so she goes on about how heroes don't get experience from killing humans, only monsters. As for monsters without golden eyes, they're just regular monsters and can even be friendly with humans under the right conditions. According to legends, the Demon King gives off this crazy energy called demon essence, and monsters affected by it go nuts and get golden eyes. Before they go any deeper, Memori suggests taking a break so Mist can catch some ZS. She says she's fine since she's supposed to be watching over him, but he eventually convinces her to lie down. Once she's out, he casts sleep on her so she can actually rest. Meanwhile, the Black Dragon Knights have just stumbled upon the spot where the Holy Watchers were taken out, and their leader Civet is pumped to face the person who wiped them out so easily. The next morning, when Mist wakes up, her transformation skill kicks in automatically, making her look like a regular human. She freaks out, worried Memori might have seen her true form, but chills out once she spots him passed out on the floor. Pigemaru waddles over to her, making some squeaky noises, and that's Memori's cue to drop the act and stop pretending he's asleep. They head off on their mission into the dungeon. But when the whole place starts rumbling and shaking, they know it's time to bounce. Out of nowhere, a massive monster smashes through the wall right next to them. Mist clocks it as the Skeleton King. Memori figures out it's the dungeon boss since it's way stronger than any demon they've tangled with before. But Mist knows the deal, there's this funky bone under its chin, and if they can just break it, they've got a shot at taking it down. She's pretty sure regular mercenaries wouldn't stand a chance against this beast, but together, they might be able to pull it off. The Skeleton King seems to think Mist is the bigger threat, and Memori's cool with that. Mist suddenly powers up, telling Memori she's gotta use her abilities to take down this boss, but she needs to keep it on the low. She asks him to keep her secret just as some special armor forms around her body. The Skeleton King starts charging up an energy blast, and Mist warns Memori that if she can't beat it, he needs to dip out fast. But Memori doesn't wait around, he jumps in and paralyzes the boss with his skill. Mist is thrown off by this, but when Memori hits the demon with a poison spell, she suddenly pieces it together. He's the same guy she ran into in the forest. Not long after, the poison takes out the Skeleton King, and Memori snags the bones needed to brew up a strengthening potion. He glances at Mist, sensing she's got a million questions, so he promises to spill the tea once they get back to the surface. They start heading out, but then Pigemaru alerts Memori to something inside the Skeleton King's body. Memori digs around and finds a small bundle tucked away in the demon's chest. As soon as he grabs the bundle, it starts glowing, and a weird symbol shows up on it. When he opens it up, Memori finds a strange egg inside. Pigemaru's all about it, so Memori decides to hold onto it. Meanwhile, far off, Memori's classmates are making their way into their first dungeon too. Some of them freak out and run as Skeleton Knights chase after them, while one girl sits on the floor crying over her chopped off arm. Her friend tries to help, but they end up getting jumped by the monsters. Somehow, everyone manages to escape, and Ayaka stands up to face the monsters, ready to hold her ground. But before she can make a move, Sagu and Kirihara swoop in and take the monsters down in one shot. Kirihara doesn't care if his attack puts his classmates in danger, so Ayaka has to step in and protect them. Kirihara's feeling himself, bragging about being level 24 now. Back in Dungeon City, Memori and Mist finally reach the surface. Mist hands over the dragon eye cup to the guards, and while everyone's caught up with the dungeon's ultimate treasure, Memori quietly slips away. Mist catches up to Memori and lets him know she's getting her reward from the Lord tomorrow at some big public ceremony. Memori asks if she's free until then, and when she says yes, he invites her to swing by his room later that night so they can talk. She gets the hint and grabs his hand just as he's about to leave, thanking him again for the cup. That night, while Memori's busy whipping up the strengthening potion, Mist shows up at his door. Memori gets straight to the point, telling her he wants to hire her as his bodyguard for the rest of his trip. He tells her she's already set with the reward money from the cups, but he still wants to keep her around. He's playing a little mind game, mentioning the cup to make her feel like she owes him, even though he's not really into that kind of move. Then Memori pulls out a map and explains that he's trying to reach the Golden Demon Zone in the center of the continent to meet the Forbidden Witch. He points out that the area's crawling with strong monsters, and he needs someone with skills to have his back, someone like Mist, who's the only one he trusts. Mist's not sure about heading into such a dangerous spot, and Memori tells her to take her time deciding. Out of nowhere, he calls her by her real name, Siras, and she answers without thinking. That's when she realizes she's been played. Memori apologizes and admits he used his skill to knock her out back in the dungeon, so he knows her secret. He says she's valuable to him, so he's not gonna spill her damn secret. He knows the thing that bugged her most about traveling with him was keeping her secret, but now that it's out, they can be real with each other. Mist stops holding back and explains that she can hide her true form with the help of spirits, but they need her to sleep to recharge their power, and that's when she reverts to her original self. She shows Memori her true form, saying she trusts him now. In return, he tells her his real name so they're on equal ground. She agrees to roll with him as his bodyguard, and Memori hands her one of the blue crystals he found in the first dungeon as payment. Mist freaks out when she sees it because the crystal is a rare item called Blue Dragonstone, which isn't even on the market anymore. Just that piece alone is worth way more than the reward she got for turning in the cup to the Lord. She tries to give it back, saying it's too valuable, but Memori thinks she's too good-hearted for her own good. He takes the stone back and then tosses it right back to her, saying it's hers now, and she can throw it away if she doesn't want it. She finally accepts it, but tries to open up to Memori about her past and the people still hunting her down, but he cuts her off, saying he doesn't care about her past, he's only interested in her skills as his employee. The next morning, while they're having breakfast together, some folks at the inn start talking trash about them. Memori tells Mist to just ignore it, and then asks what she knows about forbidden spells. She tells him that it was the goddess Vicious who banned some ancient spells and labeled them as forbidden. Memori figures if the goddess banned them, they must be dangerous for her. He thanks Mist for the info, and she blushes because it's the first time he's actually thanked her out loud. After that, Mist heads off to get her reward, while Memori goes to the forest to upgrade Pigamaru with the strengthening potion. Meanwhile, Mist feels out of place at a party full of nobles and rich folks. It's getting real late, and Mist still hasn't gotten her reward. Just then, the Lord calls out some famous magician who can break illusions as entertainment for his guests. Mist starts sweating, worried she might get exposed, and since she's running late, Memori starts thinking something shady might be going down too. Meanwhile, Ayaka goes to see Vicious to ask about helping the girl who lost her hand. Vicious tells her she only healed the girl because she was a B-rank hero. Then she tries to mess with Ayaka's head, asking why she's not joining up with Kirihara's crew and trying to guilt-trip her into thinking it's selfish not to team up with another S-rank hero. But Ayaka doesn't fall for it. She stands her ground and says she can't roll with Kirihara right now. She promises to handle her duties as an S-rank hero on her own. And hearing this, Vicious says she'll let all the students who didn't pass the first trial stick with her, so she can train them. Ayaka freaks out and reminds the goddess they made a deal to leave those students alone if she fought on their behalf. But Vicious says the king gave her orders, so her hands are tied. She tells Ayaka that if she doesn't take the ones who failed, they'll be disposed of, leaving Ayaka no choice but to accept Vicious's order. On Memori's side, he's thinking either Mist took the prize money and bailed, or something went wrong. The first option doesn't seem like her style, so he decides to go find her. On the way, he overhears people talking about how the girl who got the cup turned out to be the wanted elf princess. They say she ran into the forest after her cover was blown. But it won't help her because the Black Dragon Knights are already on her trail. Just then, 3 dragons show up in the sky and head straight for the forest where Mist is trying to escape. One of the Dragon Knights attacks her, and Mist tries to use her spirit magic to take it down with an aerial slash. She enchants her sword and takes out the 2nd and 3rd Dragon Knights too. But she's getting worn out from the fight, even though they're low-ranking knights. Just then, a spear comes flying at her, and she blocks it. A dragon charges at her, but Mist realizes it's a trick. The real enemy is right in front of her. She charges forward and locks swords with a high-ranking knight named Gizin, who tells her she's gonna die here. Mist can't use her spirit armor at full power because of the illusion-breaking spell earlier, and Gizin keeps pushing her back, revealing he's got orders from someone to kill her on sight instead of capturing her, but he plans on having some twisted fun with her first. He keeps backing Mist into a corner, and when she loses her balance and falls, he kicks her sword away and pounces on her. Luckily, Memori shows up just in time and paralyzes Gizun and his dragon. Mist gets out of the situation and asks him what he's doing there, while Memori puts a non-lethal poison on the knight. He puts Gizun to sleep before talking with Mist, reminding her they can't discuss private stuff with others around. He tells her he came back to get her, but she says she can't take his job offer now because if he's with her, the Dragon Knights will come after him too. She tries to give back the blue dragon stone, but Memori gets annoyed and throws a whole pouch of dragon stones at her. Mist is confused, but Memori tells her he can't find a better escort than her and doesn't have the patience to look for one. Then, out of nowhere, he asks her to undress, and Mist's like, "Did I hear that right?" Memori gives her a frustrated look, because she doesn't understand what he wants, and he tells her that everyone recognizes her because of what she's wearing and that she needs to change to shake them off. Then he says he needs her to find the Witch of the Woods because he has to know what these forbidden spells are about, and she might even help her hide better. After that, Memori moves over to Gizun, snaps him out of the sleep spell, and demands to know who the hell sent him to kill Mist. Gizun looks up at him, thinking it's a wrap for him, but Memori tells him if he spills the truth, he'll let him live and remove the poison spell. Gizun decides to spill the beans, partly because he's curious about how the elf princess will take the news. But before he can say anything, Memori senses danger and yanks Mist out of the way as a massive sword crushes Gizun's head. Memori spins around to see 3 dragon riders, led by a young dude with silver hair and fiery red eyes, who introduces himself as Civet, humanity's strongest soldier. Civet and his 3 companions land, introducing their squad as the 5 dragon riders. Gizun used to be one of them, but he ran his mouth too much, so he had to go. One of them is flashier than the others with a Karen-style haircut, while another guy, looking like he's into pirate cosplay, suggests they toss Mist around like a ball before killing her since the king ordered her death on sight. The flashy Karen tells the pirate to shut it because the king wants her body to look as good in death as it does alive. Mist is horrified by their talk, but pulls out her sword, saying she won't go down without a fight. The guys don't take her seriously, and Civet offers her a chance to duel him, If she wins, he'll back off. But his attention quickly shifts to Mimori, as he's more curious about this strange foreigner than the elf princess herself. Mimori knows he's walking on thin ice because he can feel Civit's power, which is way stronger than the Soul Eater who nearly took him out. Still, he grins for some reason and asks Civit if they can have a chat. Civit asks for his name, and Mimori gives a fake one, which Civit instantly recognizes, making him even more intrigued. The pirate, dumb as a bag of rocks, asks why Civit's so interested in the kid. Civit shoots back that this boy ain't scared of the Dragon Riders and even wants to chat it up with the strongest dude on the planet. Mimori knows he's gotta play it smart if he wants to make it through this, so he asks Civit if he's just hunting for the toughest enemies on Earth to satisfy his craving for a good fight. Civit admits it's true, but says there aren't many who can give him a real challenge. Mimori then asks why he doesn't go after the goddess Vicious. Civit says the goddess is tough, no doubt, but their kingdoms have a peace treaty. But if war ever breaks out, he'd love to take on the heroes she summoned from another world, since they're supposed to be crazy strong. Mimori grins, while Civit gets tired of Mist and tells her he ain't interested in fighting someone as weak as her, and she should just drop the sword and accept her fate. Of course, Mist refuses, which just pisses off the white-haired knight. But Mimori decides to sweeten the deal, telling Civit that if he's looking for a real challenge, someone who can actually keep up with him, then he should pick Mimori as his next opponent because he's a hero from another world. Everyone's stunned, especially Mist, who had no clue. But Civit just laughs, saying he knew something was off about Mimori. He asks why the hell a hero is wandering around in the woods, so far from his kingdom, and Mimori decides to lay it all out, knowing Civit would see through any lie. He tells Civit that the goddess saw him as different from the other heroes, so she separated him and sent him away. There wasn't a trace of a lie in his words, and just like that, Civit figures Mimori must be a powerful hero, which is why he's on his own. Civit asks what Mimori wants from him, and Mimori says he wants to put their fight on hold for now. Civit laughs and asks what he'll get in return, and Mimori promises that he'll train until he's stronger than anyone, even the goddess herself. Then, he'll come back to face Civit in a no-holds-barred deathmatch. Civit laughs like a straight-up psycho, saying he'd love to see that one day, then tells Mimori he's free to go, and even says the Dragon Riders will back off once they handle the elf princess. Mimori's expression shifts, and he tells Civit there's no way he can let them touch Mist because he needs her to help him get stronger. Civit laughs again, saying he'll allow that too, since he's itching to fight him soon. Karen tries to object, but Civit shuts him down, telling him to keep his mouth shut if he wants to stay alive. They all take off as Civit tells Mimori to hurry up and get strong before his patience runs out. Mimori smirks, waves them off, and waits until they're in just the right spot. Then, he hits them with a paralyzed spell. Civit senses something's off, but it's too late. The dragons and their riders crash to the ground one by one while Mimori laughs at them. This isn't some noble hero's story where people keep their promises. This is his gritty revenge tale, and he doesn't care how he gets what he wants. Civit struggles on the ground, furious, demanding to know what the hell Mimori did. Mimori doesn't even bother to answer, just hits them all with a poison spell, taking them out instantly. But Civit, tough as nails, keeps fighting even after being poisoned, reminding Mimori of the Soul Eater, the only other creature that managed to move while poisoned. But Civit's even stronger, grabbing his lance and trying to throw it at Mimori before collapsing from exhaustion. Suddenly, alarms blare, and a massive swarm of Dragon Riders shows up as backup. Civit tries to bark orders, yelling at them to keep their distance and kill both Mimori and Mist, but the Dragon Riders are too stunned, seeing the strongest four, including their leader Civit, on the ground, either dead or dying. Mimori turns to Mist, telling her she can run while she still has a chance, but Mist, loyal as ever, says she's his bodyguard and isn't going anywhere. Mimori smiles, then taps into his new ability to connect with Piggy. Moments later, Piggy bursts from Mimori's back, shooting out tentacles toward the flying Dragon Riders, boosting Mimori's range as he casts his paralyze spell on them. Soon, it's raining dragons and humans, falling all around him. But Mimori decides to use these guys as his test subjects, trying out different spells on them. He hits Karen with a spell that makes him flip out, screaming for his dad. Then, he uses a darkness spell on the pirate, blinding him as he stumbles around, clueless about what's happening. Once he's done messing with them, Mimori just leaves them to die, giving them one last paralyzed spell for good measure. Then, he notices that everyone's dead except Civit, who's somehow still hanging on. This really shocks Mimori. He walks up to Civit as the guy takes his final breath and collapses, finally dead. After that, Mimori and Mist head into the forest, knowing that, at least for now, no one's coming after them. But Mist mentions there might still be the Black Dragon Rider, known as the Hero Killer, who's probably hunting her. Mimori suddenly remembers he killed someone like that, which leaves Mist stunned, realizing how strong he really is. She pledges her loyalty, promising to stick with him through anything, while he promises to have her back. They finally set off on their journey through the forests, unaware of the adventures that lie ahead. So, outside these busted up ruins, some dudes spot something weird. but they ain't trying to snitch. They figure there's no way anyone made it out alive anyway. Meanwhile, in some town, Momori's checking out a mask. The shop owner tells him it's modeled after the Fly King, some demon king who got kicked out, cause folks said he was too evil. Momori ends up buying it, thinking he's better off playing the devil than the hero. Over in the Magnar Kingdom, there's a meeting between nations, trying to figure out how Garland and the Black Dragon Knights got taken down. Vicious chimes in, saying they were chasing Cirrus and found a ton of blood, guessing she got messed up pretty bad fighting them. Vicious thinks losing the Black Knights is a huge hit against their fight with the Demon Emperor, meaning they're gonna have to lean harder on their heroes. But the Emperor of the Mira Empire isn't too worried. The King of Magnar starts wondering if Cirrus really took out Garland. But then he gets word that a crew of sorcerers called a Shinto are claiming they did it. Cirrus tells Momori that the land of the golden-eyed monsters is up north, and they decide to crash at an inn. Cirrus wants to save some cash, so she offers to split a room with him. During dinner, they catch wind of the rumors about the Black Knights and hear about a Shinto. Momori's curious if Cirrus knows anything about them, so she drops that they worship the curse god. Out of nowhere, a squad of hooded dudes shows up, calling themselves the sorcerer soldiers of a Shinto, but Momori isn't even fazed. He's cool with them taking credit for killing the Black Knights. Some guys start talking about people they think could have taken out the Black Knights. One of them mentions the Witch of Taboo, so Momori buys them drinks to spill more about her. They say only a fighter named Eve from the Colosseum has seen her, but suddenly they tell him it's his lucky day because there she is, walking in. Momori rolls up to her and asks if she knows where the Witch of Taboo is. She mentions she's been to the Golden Demon Zone, but never met the witch. Cirrus listens in, and Eve asks why Momori's looking for the witch. He says it's his dream to be a scholar, but she warns him about going to that area, telling him he wouldn't last 3 days and to value his life. Later, Cirrus says he was lying, so she must know where the witch is. Back at the inn, Momori realizes he forgot Pigimaru's food, so he decides to whip something up from his bag. Momori gives some food to Cirrus, and she thinks the stuff from his world is fire. She even finds the plastic wrapper pretty, but then the wind blows, and Momori just stares at her, caught in the moment. He starts thinking about how to get Eve to spill, figuring out what bloodfighters care about. Cirrus figures they'd be all about money, so they could buy their freedom from their owners, but she points out it'd be a crazy amount. Meanwhile, Eve meets up with a girl, and she promises to help her break out of there. Cirrus is practicing with her spirit armor, and Momori's blown away by how skilled she is. He asks her to teach him since he feels he's leaning too hard on his skills. But as she starts breaking it down, she's reminded of when she used to teach the other knights. She tells him to hit her, so he tries throwing a punch, and she shows him how to lock someone down. His sweat drips on her, and she gets a little embarrassed, but they keep training. Afterward, she sniffs his clothes and realizes she's starting to like him. But then Momori suddenly shows up behind her, and she freaks out, thinking he caught her acting weird. She quickly says she's just washing their clothes. Later, Momori's reading his book and mentions he can't sleep. Cirrus pulls out some herbs, saying they've got different effects that could help. Momori uses a cube to make soup, and Cirrus thinks it's bomb. She adds her herbs, but after they drink it, she realizes she grabbed the wrong bottle, and instead of calming them down, it amps them up. Momori just rolls with it, deciding to stay up and keep reading, but she asks if there's anything she can do to help him. She wonders if he's into her, but he says he's only focused on getting his revenge, feeling like it's a curse. She swears to help him break that curse as soon as possible. The next day, they roll up to the Blood Colosseum and find out Eve is one of the top dogs there. She was sold as a slave but quickly became a big deal, staying undefeated for 3 years. Her final match is set for tomorrow, so they figure they can't bribe her with money since she's already got enough to buy her freedom. Cirrus mentions she had the cash 2 years ago, so they realize she's also trying to free the girl. Cirrus also adds that most fighters get killed in their final match because the Duke who runs the Colosseum pits them against someone way out of their league, but Momori thinks that's their shot. We see Eve gearing up for her big fight. Momori points out that Eve's speed makes her a hotshot in Bloodspot, so the higher-ups probably want her out of the way to pass the torch to the next crew. Cirrus asks if they're gonna stop that from going down tomorrow, but Momori says that ain't his plan. He breaks it down, saying they don't gotta play nice and wait till the tournament day. Later that evening, Momori meets Eve in a dark alley. She asks if he's got business with her. She reminds him she already told him she doesn't know where the Witch of Taboo hides, but Momori knows she's frontin'. He wonders if she owes the witch something, but Eve says she doesn't. That's when Cirrus steps out and calls her out, saying that's a lie too. Eve looks at her and asks who she is. Momori says they gotta cut the games and stop tricking each other. Eve, playing it cautious, asks what he wants. Momori says he's trying to save her. He spills that the Duke running the show tomorrow's got plans to make sure she gets wrecked in her match. Eve can't figure out why he'd care to help. Momori says he can't let someone who's got info on the Witch of Taboo get knocked off. He asks her if snatching up the girl she wants to save and skipping town tonight is off the table. Eve's shocked he knows about the girl and warns him not to touch her. Momori says he just wants her to know he's hip to her situation and knows she's been fighting for Lisbeth these past 2 years. Eve appreciates the heads up, but says she can't back out of tomorrow's blood sport. Memori wonders why she's so set on staying. Eve breaks it down. There's nowhere to run cause the Duke's gonna hunt them down to the ends of the earth unless they win their freedom fair and square. Plus, the guild running the Colosseum will slap bounties on their heads, and Eve says she'd be cool with that if she was solo. But she can't drag Lisbeth into that mess. Memori says they got a solid hideout if they go to the Witch of Taboo's place. But Eve says that's a no-go, no one can get to the heart of the monster's land. Memori says they might have a shot if they team up, and he promises to protect Lisbeth as best he can. Eve doesn't trust him after sizing him up, but sees the knight next to him looks pretty tough. Memori tells her, even if he don't look like much, he's got magic skills, took down a skeleton king like it was nothing. Eve's thinking that whatever's out there in the land of monsters is way worse than these two. That's when Memori drops the bomb that he's the one who took out the 5 dragons. She's not buying it, so he decides to show her what he's got. Suddenly, she can't move, dudes paralyzed her. She's shocked, frozen in place. He tells her that's the same power he used to beat humanity's strongest. Then he warns her not to move, or she'll start bleeding from all over. Then Ceres steps up and reveals who she is. She tells Eve how those 5 dragons were after her, and she saw them get taken down with her own eyes. Memori lets go of the paralysis and tells Eve it's her call whether she wants to believe them or not. But he's real clear that she's still fighting in tomorrow's Bloodsport. Eve's stubborn, says she's grabbing her freedom on her own terms, and she trusts Bloodsport more than she trusts these 2 strangers she just met. Memori figures that's fair, and he asks her if she really thinks Duke Zwan's gonna let her walk away even if she wins. He lays it out, saying the Duke sounds like a real lowlife from what he's heard. So he doubts the dude's gonna keep his word. Eve knows the Duke ain't exactly a saint, but he's kept his side of the bargain so far. She thinks he can't be as cold-blooded as Memori's making him out to be. Dude's still human, after all. Eve decides to keep faith in Bloodsport, but Memori presses her, asking if she's sure she ain't just trying to convince herself that she won't get double-crossed. That gets Eve thinking hard. Memori then tells her they're planning to bounce out of town early tomorrow morning and says they'll be waiting by the bridge at the front gate if she changes her mind. Later, Ceres apologizes to Memori for spilling the beans about who she is without checking with him first, but he's chill about it. He figures it helped make their case stronger anyway. Then they notice some Ashinto members making a racket nearby. As usual, they're out here taking credit for stuff they didn't even do. They're telling the crowd that the people in the house behind them got cursed by their leader Emwaji. Folks are buying it, thinking they saw the folks in the house foaming at the mouth. Ceres and Memori keep it moving, but Ceres is disgusted by their nerve. They spot some more Ashinto guys trying to mess with a girl. They're roughing her up, and Ceres is straight up disgusted by it, ready to jump in and help. But Memori holds her back. Instead, he uses his powers to make those guys start wailing on each other. The girl takes her chance and bolts. After that, they head to the bridge, and Memori figures they still got about 4 hours until the deadline. Ceres asks if there's any shot Eve can win the Bloodsport and live a quiet life with Lisbeth. But Memori's got no hope for that. He knows Duke Zwan's bad news and doesn't trust him to keep his word. Not for a second. Then it cuts to Eve in her room, trying to sleep. She's thinking the Duke should be cool with her since she's done everything he asked. She's sure he'll keep his promise. But after what Memori said, doubt starts creeping in. She decides to check things out and sneaks over to spy on the Duke. She listens in by his room and hears him talking to some dude. The guy's saying tomorrow's gonna be huge, Eve's final Bloodsport match. Zwan agrees and says they gotta take her out since they don't have any other fighters as popular as her. Eve's shocked hearing this. Zwan says they're gonna slip her a paralytic before the fight, and the other guy thinks it's a genius move. Zwan goes on about how he's given that pseudo-human too many chances already. He says they should have tomorrow's winner skin her and wear it like a trophy. The guy's all for it, saying they can hype up the winner as the Leopard Slayer. Then he asks what they're gonna do with Lisbeth. He wonders if the Duke's gonna set her free. Maybe as a mercy move since Eve stuck around for her. But the Duke says he's planning to keep her. He's sure she'll grow into a beauty, and he'll train her good. If he gets tired of her, he'll sell her off to a whorehouse. The other guy nods like he gets it. He asks if the Duke doesn't feel some kind of way about Eve, seeing how long she's been with them. But the Duke just says he can't feel anything for a subhuman. Hearing all this, Eve is fuming with rage. Eve realizes there's no way out for her unless she bounces today. She crosses paths with the leader of Ashinto, named Emwaji. He wishes her luck for tomorrow's match, and she moves on. Then, Emwaji's guys let him know about some chaos in town. Next, we see Eve meeting up with Memori and Ceres by the bridge. She tells them it's exactly like Memori said it's a setup. Memori asks if she's bringing Lisbeth with them, and Eve states that they are since she can't leave her here. Memori figures that means she's coming with them to the land of the monsters. Eve says she'll spill the beans on where the witch is, but only if they play by her rules. Memori's down with that, so they get to planning how to snatch Lisbeth. Cut to Lisbeth working in a tavern, and the owner's giving her a hard time for scrubbing the same spot too long. She throws shade, saying dark elves are useless, and Lisbeth apologizes. A dude sitting there thinks Lisbeth is starting to look kinda fine, and he tries to make a move on her. But the owner tells him he's gotta pay up if he wants to touch her. She explains someone important's already lined up to take Lisbeth. The guy thinks Lisbeth is like a robot, never cries, never smiles. But when the owner gets pissed and beats her, trying to make her cry, Lisbeth clutches the doll Eve gave her and remembers how Eve said they'd win their freedom together. She decides she's gotta be tough like Eve and stops crying. That just annoys the owner even more, and she starts yelling because she knows that's what gets under Lisbeth's skin. The dude decides he's seen enough and dips out, telling the owner not to go too far. Lisbeth, tearing up, apologizes to Eve in her mind, thinking she's not as strong as her. Then Eve storms into the tavern and sees how Lisbeth's getting treated. She's heated and tells the owner she's taking Lisbeth with her. Before Eve even pulls her sword, the owner drops to her knees, begging for mercy. She says she was just following orders from Duke Xuan to be rough on Lisbeth and begs Eve to spare her, promising she won't snitch about their escape. Eve explains to Lisbeth that plans have changed and they're in for another rough ride. Lisbeth agrees to go with her, ready to face whatever comes next. Eve tells the owner to let Duke Xuan and the others know she took off south looking for Lisbeth after she up and disappeared. She says she'll let her live if she does that. The owner agrees and half-heartedly apologizes to Lisbeth for all the crap she put her through, even squeezes out some fake tears. That's when Memori walks into the tavern. He tells Eve and Lisbeth to go on ahead and says he'll catch up in a bit. They bounce, and Memori turns to the owner, saying her phony act isn't fooling him. The owner, clueless about his powers, starts threatening that the Duke ain't gonna let them off easy, but Memori couldn't care less. He says, "Must feel real nice to throw your weight around," yelling and making a scene, but it's hell for the ones taking it. He's not cool with her just going on like nothing happened. The owner tries to remind him she's their only shot at getting away clean, but he's not buying it. He hits her with paralysis, darkness, and poison, saying he'll make it look like a robbery. She curses him, saying he's gonna rot in hell for this. But Memori already knows this, and we both are. Later, we see Memori catching up with Eve and Lisbeth in the underground sewers, and they head out. Eve asks what he did with that woman, and he just says he handled it. He checks if the girl is okay, and Eve confirms she is. Lisbeth then introduces herself, saying she doesn't know her last name. Memori gives his real name, and Lisbeth says she's willing to do whatever it takes and asks if she can stick with her big sis. Memori warns her they're about to roll into a dangerous spot, but Lisbeth doesn't care as long as she's with her big sis. Memori decides she can come along, and Eve mentions she's been hearing some watery sound coming from Memori for a while now. Memori realizes she's talking about Pigimaru and introduces him to everyone. They manage to slip out of the town, and Eve says she's ready to tell Memori where the witch is, but she wants to know why he's so keen on meeting her first. He explains he's got a scroll with some forbidden magic he wants her to decode, and Eve's relieved that he doesn't mean any harm. She then says she'd like to swear loyalty to him. Memori thinks that's a big leap, so he asks why. She's saying that Memori could have used some brutal tactics to get information out of her, but he didn't, and that's proof he's a solid person. They all hop on some horses they had stashed in the woods, and Cirrus asks Memori if it's cool to bring Lisbeth along to the land of monsters. Memori reassures her that it'll be fine, and he'll have Lisbeth's back if things go south. Cirrus can tell he's a kind soul. Then, he drops a hint that he's got another reason for letting the two of them tag along. Eve's got a link to the witch, which will make it easier for them to get close to her. Plus, Lisbeth's a dark elf like the witch, and saving someone from her tribe could work in their favor. Memori's thinking he's doing this partly for his own benefit, but he figures it's better to let a young girl like her live her life instead of being scared all the time. Cirrus is on board with the plan, but after a bit, they realize their pursuers are right behind them. Memori's confused about how they got found out, but Eve explains she bumped into a guy named Mwaji before leaving the Colosseum. She feels bad for putting everyone in danger and wants to take them on herself. But Memori knows she can't handle it alone, and losing their guide to the Witch of Taboo isn't an option. Memori decides to set a trap ahead of time, and Cirrus sends the horses off with torches tied to them. The first wave of pursuers chases after the horses, and Memori notices that none of the Ashinto are in that group. He figures the Ashinto are in the second wave and tells Eve and Lisbeth to hide further up ahead. Eve wants to fight too, but Memori says he needs Cirrus for what he's planning, so Eve has to protect Lisbeth. She agrees, and Memori respects Mwaji for piecing together their plan with minimal info. He lays out his plan to Cirrus, and she's quick to get it. Eve's impressed that he's got a strategy to take on so many enemies, and Memori says if they can't go head-to-head with their foe, they'll drag them to a spot where they've got the upper hand, and he puts on his mask. Right after, the Ashinto crew spots a busted-up tree branch, and Mwaji's got a gut feeling that this was no accident, it's a setup. He figures out that his enemies are trying to lure him deep into the woods, so he calls them out, letting them know he ain't falling for their tricks. Then Cirrus steps out, wearing the mask of the Fly Swordsman, one of the Lord of Fly's goons from the old legends. Mwaji tells her straight up, hand over Eve and Lisbeth, and he'll let her live. He even throws in a deal she could roll with a Shinto if she wants, cause she looks like she got some skills. But Ceres, she ain't convinced. She asks what happens if she says no. Mwaji says he'll lay down some curses on her, and it won't be pretty. He brags that even the 5 dragons couldn't handle his curses, and not even the strongest humans could stop them. Ceres tells him to promise that Eve and Lisbeth will be safe before she leads him to them. Mwaji agrees to that. So, Ceres tells the crew to follow her, and they start to move, but Mwaji puts the brakes on. He's pieced it together, she's not planning to hand over the girls that easy. Her choice of words slipped up, she said everyone should follow when it could have been just a few of them. He's thinking she's trying to lead them into some kind of trap in the woods. Sensing something's up, he orders his squad to hang back and get ready for a fight. Ceres fires back, saying they were about to hit her with those curses anyway. Mwaji laughs and decides to spill a little secret Ashinto's actually carrying on the legacy of the Assassin's Guild. He drops a story about some hero from another world who called the guild evil and wiped it out. But now, Ashinto's stepping up, using curses like the old guild did. Ceres catches on they're really just messing with poisons. Mwaji nods, adding that their poisons are on a whole different level. They got these special techniques passed down from the few left of the Assassin's Guild, to mix up these poisons that hit like curses but leave no trace. Ceres catches on they ain't slinging curses. They're using some next level poison. Mwaji starts talking about how they stumbled on the tragedy of the 5 dragons and how their downfall could only be chalked up to some curses way beyond what folks understand. He says that's why they started calling themselves the Slayers of the 5 dragons, cause nobody could prove their curses weren't real. So, folks just went with it. In this world, without proof, whoever shouts the loudest gets to make the rules. Ceres then asks him what his endgame is. Mwaji breaks it down. They're gonna use Duke Zwan to muscle in and carve out a big spot for themselves in this country. Ceres puts 2 and 2 together, they're planning to take out anyone standing in their way. Mwaji doesn't even hide it. He straight up says his plan is to take over the whole damn country. Then he asks her where her other crew is. Ceres says she's the only one rolling with Eve and Lisbeth, but Mwaji's not buying it. To make him believe her, Ceres pulls off her mask and drops the fact that she's the one who went up against the 5 dragons and made it out. Mwaji puts 2 and 2 together, she's Ceres. He's wondering if she really took down the 5 dragons. She states that she might have. Mwaji isn't feeling it. He doesn't think she could have taken down humanity's best. Then, Mwaji pulls out a dude and says this guy Belger was supposed to throw down with Eve in her last Bloodsport match. He also points to another dude, his brother Var, saying these 2 are the toughest pair in a Shinto. They had another brother in the White Walker's crew that was after her, and they're here to settle the score for him. Mwaji asks Ceres what's her next move and drops the bomb that his people have already got her surrounded. He breaks it down, they were just a distraction, and his other crews already circled around her, staying hidden and ready to strike. He says she shouldn't stress, he ain't gonna kill her. She's got a pretty face, and he plans to take his sweet time enjoying her. He tells her to drop to her knees right where she stands. Ceres hears him out, and Mwaji adds that one day he might just give her the honor of having his kid. Meanwhile, Ceres is thinking it's Memori's turn to make a move. Suddenly, Memori throws out some kind of flash bomb that blinds everybody. Turns out, he's already fused with Pigimaru, and he uses those tentacles to lock down all the Ashinto crew. He's thinking they probably didn't see a long-range move like that coming, and Mwaji's tripping, wondering where his backup is at. Memori lets him know he already wiped out all 15 of them while Mwaji was running his mouth. Then he hits them all with some poison. He says Mwaji was smart enough to guess Eve was plotting something, so he figured he'd catch on to a broken branch being a setup. He figured Mwaji would avoid the forest, thinking it was a trap. That's why he told Ceres to fake like she was leading them into the woods. He says he made things look off on purpose, just to make Mwaji think he was running the show. That's what threw off his whole game plan, and with that, Mwaji and his crew are done for. Ceres then says everything played out exactly how Memori set it up, and he gives her props for sticking to their little act. He says Mwaji's real screw-up was not thinking there could be an even bigger scheme in play. Then, he tells Ceres to head back and give Eve the lowdown on what went down. Ceres heads off to do just that, and Memori spots the first wave coming back. He's thinking this is right on cue, and he tells Pigimaru to link up with him again. But then he notices Pigimaru's low on juice. Eve catches on too, and she figures not even Memori can see everything coming. Then Memori moves toward the first wave with Eve by his side, asking her if she can count how many they got. Eve counts them up and steps up to face them. The soldiers spot her and try to rush her, but Memori locks them down with paralysis and hits them with poison too. Then the Duke and some of his crew roll up from behind. Thinking Eve and Memori got nowhere to run, one dude with the Duke says they're gonna kill Eve and make Lisbeth wear a dress made from her skin. Hearing this, Memori thinks these guys are straight up trash. He tries to paralyze them, but his powers don't work. Turns out he's already maxed out on targets. So, he hits the guy with some dark magic, blinding him, and Eve steps in and chops his head off. Then, Memori uses dark on the soldiers with the Duke, and Eve takes them out too. Seeing their boys drop like flies, the rest of the soldiers freak out and start running. The crazy Duke then kills the soldiers who try to retreat and screams at the others to kill that creepy guy in black. He's losing it, shouting how he's the Duke and how everything's gonna go his way. Memori watches him lose his mind and thinks he doesn't even need to use his berserk skill to make him go nuts. Dude's already off his rocker. Eve chimes in, saying she's always been a warrior, but lately, she thought maybe she'd had enough of all this fighting. But now, she's loving taking these guys down alongside Memori. She goes to work, cutting down the rest of the soldiers one by one. The Duke, seeing all this, gets scared and tries to run, yelling something about making sure they suffer later. But Memori paralyzes him, and he nods to Eve to finish the job. Eve tells him she might have let him off the hook if he'd only come for her. But he crossed the line going after Lisbeth, and that's something she can't forgive. She then takes his head clean off, and when it's all said and done, the forest is a straight-up battlefield mess. Siraz and Lisbeth step out from hiding, and Memori tells Siraz to take Lisbeth and bounce. He thanks her for saving his skin in the fight. Siraz says sorry for jumping in without the green light, but Memori waves it off, saying it's cool, she's the vice leader of their merc group, after all. Then, we see Memori use his freeze move on the Ashinto crew. He breaks it down. When used on the living, this spell locks people up in tough ice, but on dead bodies, it turns them into frozen chunks that can be crushed to powder. He tells Eve he's gonna use this to clean up the bodies of the Ashinto. He adds that these fools claimed they took down the 5 dragons, and he's gonna make sure that's stuck to them for good. So, he shatters their bodies into dust. Later, King Jean hears that the Ashinto have vanished, and all they found were the corpses of the Duke and his men. Jean ain't happy about it, messes up his whole plan to use them as his puppets. He's stressing about how he's gonna explain this to the goddess. He orders his soldiers to do whatever it takes to track down the Ashinto. Meanwhile, it starts pouring rain in the forest. Siraz and Lisbeth find a cave to chill in, and Siraz is drying off her soaked clothes. Seeing her hot look, Lisbeth wonders if she will ever be able to have an airbag like her. Siraz tells her not to worry, just gotta take a good hit to make them pop out. Lisbeth nods, saying she'll trust Siraz on that one. She thinks to herself that it's like she's got another big sis now. Then, Eve and Memori show up, and both Eve and Lisbeth are already knocked out, fast asleep. Siraz tells Memori he should catch some rest too while she keeps watch, but he says he ain't feeling tired. She offers to let him rest his head on her lap, but he knows she's tired too, so he flips it and offers her his lap instead. Siraz jumps at the offer, but when she catches his awkward look, she realizes he was just messing around. She says sorry, but Memori brushes it off, saying it's all good. Then he asks if he can touch her ears. He's been curious about them for a minute. She gives him the go-ahead, so he checks them out, but he pulls back when he sees she's starting to feel weird about it. Siraz then asks if he's got any special feelings for Eve or Lisbeth, since he treats them the same way he treats her. He breaks it down. Eve reminds him of his uncle. Sure, she might be different in looks and vibe, but deep down, she's got the same spirit. He adds that his aunt and uncle are the only reason he's even thinking about going back to his world. And as for Lisbeth, she reminds him of himself. He explains he went through some rough stuff as a kid too, just like her. But the big difference is how they handle things. He's down to take out anything that comes at him, no hesitation. And he admits he's not a good person like her. He tells Siraz she can dip whenever if she ain't down for his path of revenge. But Siraz makes it clear she's not going anywhere, she's got her own beef with the goddess of Vicious. Hearing that, Memori says he'll pay her back for riding with him on this journey, and he promises to grant her one wish if it's in his power. He tells her to think about it, but for now, she should get some rest. She gets the message, and when she lays down, he uses his sleep skill to help her knock out. Later on, we see Ayaka training in secret with Nyantin, and she thanks her for the lessons. Nyantin tells Ayaka that one day, she's gonna outdo her in technique, but she asks Ayaka to keep their training on the down low. Ayaka agrees, and Nyantin mentions it'd be tough to get the go-ahead from the goddess Vicious if word got out. Ayaka then asks Nyantin why she agreed to train her, and Nyantin says it's cause she reminds her of her lil sister. As she heads out, she tells Ayaka not to show any weakness in this world, or she'll end up in trouble. Next, we see Lisbeth rocking a new dress, and she's loving it. She thanks Memori for the hookup, and Siraz thinks it's time to come up with a name for their mercenary crew. She breaks it down that they might need an identity when they cross into the land of monsters, and she throws out the name Lord of the Flies Warband. She explains that's what the army of the Lord of Flies was called back in the day. Everyone's feeling it, so Memori rolls with it. They keep it moving, and by evening, they hit the land of the golden-eyed monsters. Memori spots a jacked-up tree in the middle and figures out it used to be some kind of sacred tree. Eve steps up and asks him to pour some magic into her hand, and a crest shows up. She says this crest is passed down to the leader of her tribe and their kids. The green dot on it shows where they are, and the red dot shows where the Witch of Taboo is at. Memori gets it, they just gotta head for that red mark. Since it's already getting dark, they decide to set up camp for the night. While looking out over the land of monsters, Memori thinks about how his hate for the goddess is still burning strong. Even after all this time, he's ready to show her what real hell looks like. He plans to use this place like an exp farm to level up. He knows catching up to the S-class or class heroes might be a stretch, but he's confident he can close that gap. Meanwhile, the scene switches to the goddess talking to the heroes. She tells them they've been leveling up pretty good, but leveling up only boosts their base stats, they still need to learn some real technique. She says that's why she's called in some big name people to train them up and bring out their full potential. She also drops the news that the Great Demon Empire is making moves, and their next showdown is going to be huge, way beyond what they're expecting. She hopes the heroes are ready to go all out for that, and then she tells Nyanton they gotta keep leveling the heroes up. She's planning to send them to the land of monsters once they've learned some skills. As Memori's crew moves through the monster-infested land, Lisbeth steps up, offering to take on most of the luggage. She's trying to help out, doing her part for the group. The rest of them tell her she doesn't need to carry everything on her own, but when they see how determined she is, they let her do her thing. The crew keeps it moving through the forest until they feel something creeping up. Memori and the squad halt, getting ready for whatever's coming their way. Soon enough, a monster rolls up, and Memori peeps that it looks a lot like one of those lizard creatures he dealt with back in the ruins of Disposal. Only difference, this one's rocking a head full of seaweed. Doesn't matter, though their approach stays the same. Eve goes in, keeping the monster busy, while Memori closes the distance. Once he's in range, he hits it with Paralyze and Poison, taking it down. Eve checks if Memori got what he needed, and Memori's good. He wanted to make sure his Paralyze and Poison skills still work on these monsters, and now he knows they do. After squaring up with this one, Memori's convinced these creatures aren't as tough as the ones from the ruins. If this is the worst this place has, getting to the witch is going to be light work. Memori starts dissecting the monster, which throws Cirrus off a little. She asks him what he's up to, and he explains he's seen this creature in a forbidden book before. Parts of it can be used to create a forbidden item. The item is basically a voice modulator, and Memori figures it might be useful, so he wants to make one. He notices Cirrus is curious about the info in his forbidden book, so he offers to let her hold onto it for now, telling her he trusts her with it. After Memori's done gathering what he needs, the group pushes forward until they hit a big body of water. Eve and Memori cross first, and Lisbeth wants to go next. Cirrus warns her to watch her step on the slippery stones. Eve thinks it'd be easier to carry Lisbeth since she's still a kid, but Memori believes it's good for her to handle things on her own sometimes. Lisbeth's confident, saying she's not about to fall or anything. But right after that, she stumbles and almost goes into the water. Before she takes a dive, Memori sends Piggymaru to swoop in and save her. Even though she slipped up, Memori's still cool with it, because what matters to him is that Lisbeth had the confidence to try handling it on her own. When she finally makes it to the other side, Lisbeth catches Memori and Eve talking, and thinks they might be clowning on her for nearly falling in. Eve notices Lisbeth's feeling a little embarrassed, so she quickly makes something up, telling her they were talking about the kind of kids Memori and Cirrus might have. Right as she says that, Cirrus overhears and loses her focus, causing her to fall right into the river. Once they fish Cirrus out, she apologizes for letting herself get distracted, but she doesn't want to hold the crew up. She tells Memori they don't have to wait for her clothes to dry. Memori's good with keeping it moving but offers her his coat so she won't catch a cold, and Cirrus is grateful for that. The squad keeps trekking through the forest, but it doesn't take long before Memori and Eve feel something off ahead. They tell Lisbeth to fall back while they get ready for a fight. Eve recognizes the creatures and admits she can't take them down. She turns to Memori, asking what the move is. He tells her to sit this one out and let him handle it. Memori hides behind a tree, waiting for the monsters to get close enough to be in his range. When the monsters finally show up, Memori gets why Eve couldn't beat them. Almost nobody could win against these things in a straight-up fight, but Memori isn't about to play fair. As soon as they step close enough, he hits them with Paralyze, then uses Berserk, making them bleed out until they drop. Once the monsters are down, Memori notices he leveled up, but he's not too focused on that. He's already thinking about harvesting parts from the Nosarts. Eve looks at him with disgust, wondering if he's really about to eat that thing. Cirrus jumps in, letting Eve know that Memori's not planning to eat the monster. He's just gathering materials because they're part of a forbidden item that's gonna power up Piggymaru. Even though Piggymaru's gonna have to eat it, it's not gonna be a pleasant experience for him. Right then, Memori and the crew pick up on a monster nearby, but they can't lock down its exact spot because there's no malice or bad vibes coming their way. After scanning the area, Piggymaru lets Memori know the monster is chilling in his backpack. Memori opens it up and pulls out an egg he's been carrying. It looks like it's about to hatch, and sure enough, moments later, a horse-like monster pops out. None of them have seen anything like it before, so they're all a bit puzzled. While giving the horse some pets, Memori notices something strange on its back. He moves the hair aside and finds a magical organ. Cirrus explains that a lot of monsters have an organ like this to absorb magic. That sparks an idea in Memori's head. He starts pouring his mana into the horse, hoping it'll grow bigger. After pouring in about 1,000 mana points, the horse morphs into a sleek black stallion. It looks like it'd be perfect for hauling their gear. but the horse tells Memori to keep feeding it more magic. And since Memori's got plenty, he keeps going. This time, he drops 10,000 mana points, and the horse transforms again, this time into a powerful minotaur. Memori's feeling pretty good about the transformation, so he decides to make the horse part of the crew. Now it needs a name. After thinking for a bit, he comes up with the name Slay, and Slay seems to vibe with it. That's how he officially becomes part of the squad. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the forest, Ayaka's group is feeling bad and apologizing to her because they've been dragging their feet the whole time. On the flip side, Asagi's group is killing it, with everyone pulling their weight and working together like a team. Kirihara's group is also doing alright, but he's not happy with the pace they're moving at. The fighters leading them have been handling all the dangerous monsters, thinking the heroes aren't ready to step up. Kirihara can't stand being underestimated like that. Later that night, the fighters take the heroes on another hunting trip. When they reach an area with a group of Nosarts up ahead, the fighters decide the heroes aren't ready for this kind of fight. They tell them to step back while they handle it. Kirihara doesn't like being told to wait, but as the monsters start closing in, Nyanton steps up and says she's got the one on the right, while the other two fighters can handle the one on the left. They roll up and start the attack, slicing through the Nosarts fast, making it look easy. But there's way more of them coming, so the squad's gonna have to rethink their strategy if they want to finish the job. But Kirihara's done with people sleeping on him. He strolls up to the front, no hesitation, and hits them all with his Dragonic Burst, burning every Nosart to ash in one shot. After that, he lets everyone know his power's only at level 4, and with this much destruction, nobody better underestimate him again. He says he's the future ruler of the world, and the way he says it you believe him. The other heroes are stunned, too caught up in his power to even notice Hijiri and Itsuki are gone. Turns out, those two are off in the forest, handling some spies that had been tailing the group. But just as they capture them, the spies take themselves out so they can't be interrogated. While all this is going down, Memori and the others have found an old building to crash in for the night. They've been moving quick, making progress thanks to Slay, and now it looks like they'll get to the witch's place way earlier than expected. At one point, Sirius asks Memori what he's doing out there, and he says he saw some lights coming from the forest, thought maybe some monsters were beefing. Sirius points out the lights are coming from the northeast, and Memori realizes that's where Alien is, so whatever's happening must be tied to the goddess. Next morning, Eve and Sirius wake up and notice Memori's not with them anymore. Eve's not stressing though, cause she knows Memori ain't the type to just bounce on them in the middle of monster territory. Sirius agrees, so they head outside to look for him, and sure enough, they don't have to go far. Memori's outside, chilling next to the body of a massive monster he just took down. When he sees them, he says he sensed the monster earlier and came out to deal with it. Now he's digging through the monster's remains, checking if there's anything useful they can take. After Memori finishes up, the crew keeps pushing forward. They soon hit a vertical cliff with no way to climb it, so they have no choice but to follow the road that runs along the cliff. Sirius suggests Memori should take a break since he hasn't rested properly in a while, but Memori brushes it off. He says they gotta keep moving because the air is getting heavy and humid, and he wants to cover as much ground as possible before the rain hits. As they walk along the road, they notice something strange. No monsters have shown up for a minute. They figure it's probably because they're getting close to the Witch of Taboo's crib. Memori peeps that Lisbeth looks a little off, so he asks if she's scared of this monster-filled land. Lisbeth admits that place is scary, but she hasn't been feeling much fear since they got here. That's mostly because Sirius told her that as long as Memori's around, they ain't losing to any monster in this place. Eventually, they reach an opening in the cliff. Once they pass through it, they'll be almost right at the witch's doorstep. Before going any further, Eve wants to thank Memori again for everything he's done, saying there's no way they'd have made it this far without him. Memori waves it off, saying there's no need to keep thanking him. He only helped because it worked out for him too. Eve says she'll be happy with whatever outcome, as long as she and Lisbeth can live a peaceful life together. She even starts dreaming about them settling down and maybe starting a farm, and Lisbeth's all in on that idea. But just as they're talking, a mouth monster pops up right above Eve, too close for Memori to hit it with his paralyze move. Eve spins around and slices it down before it can do any damage. The monster's definitely dead, but Memori's gut is still telling him something's off. That feeling gets confirmed when the monster lets out a piercing screech and a bright flash of light. It's a signal, letting all the monsters in the area know where they are. Now every beast in the forest is headed straight for them, and with that many enemies coming their way, things are looking pretty grim. Memori catches on real quick there ain't no way this is a coincidence. He recalls reading once about a certain kind of demon that ain't strong by itself, but when it dies, it lets out a scream that calls up a whole swarm of other demons. He starts thinking this big-mouthed creature might be one of those. He begins running through his mind, trying to figure out a way to escape from this mess. Before he can settle on a solid plan, Eve steps forward, saying she will stay behind and act as bait to lure the monsters, giving the others a chance to get away and track down the witch. Lisbeth immediately jumps in, trying to stop her. But Eve tells her she knows how to handle tough terrain like this, and she is quick on her feet, so there's a real good chance she will survive while helping them escape. Lisbeth lowers her head, too choked up to speak, but Memori breaks the silence, throwing out one of those lines about how Eve better promise to come back safe and sound. Eve is just about to make that promise when Memori cuts her off, telling her to stop being so corny, saying he would never utter something so foolish. He points out that she cannot take on the monsters alone, no matter how hard she tries. He pulls out his mask and says this is a man's task, something that needs handling the right way, and it is not something she can pull off, no matter how much she tries to change up. Eve starts to bristle, ready to snap back like one of those riled up types, but Memori shuts her down, reminding her they need her to deal with the witch since the witch trusts her. He starts preparing and orders everyone to head for the caves, saying he will hold the line with Slay and Pigimaru, as they have the best chance of making it through alive. Eve tries to push back, but he cuts her off once more, telling her to be quiet and follow his lead without another word. Eve eventually agrees while Cirrus falls to her knees. Memori, for a moment, thinks something else might be happening, but Cirrus is simply giving him thanks for his courage and wishing him luck. Memori tells them all to get out of there while he stays behind to face down these demons. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, the rest of the crew has no clue what went down as folks are running wild, trying to escape. Kirihara and Sagu swing their blades at any monster they can get close to. While the girls take off, looking for a place to hide, Kirihara starts feeling off like something ain't adding up. He always thought he was the main character of this whole thing, but now these monsters are straight up ignoring him. Right then, one of the girls gets smacked hard by a monster, hits the ground, and starts wondering if she'll see Memori after she dies. And speaking of Memori, he's over there, getting ready to take out all the monsters. He channels his mana into the horse, making it grow bigger and stronger. After that, he grabs his mask and tells Pigimaru to scream into it as loud as it can. The mask works like a speaker, blasting out a massive sound wave that pulls in all the monsters nearby. With the girls tucked away safe inside the cave, he takes off with Slay, flying through the forest as fast as possible, while a pack of huge monsters chases him down. He starts questioning if he's going to make it through this, but then it hits him Berserk's skill is about to come through. Back in the forest, Ayaka is out there helping the rest of the students get out safely, but soon enough, she finds out 2 of them didn't make it. Turns out, they were part of the crew with Yasu, who's been acting all tough ever since he got his powers. She asks him what happened, and he coldly replies, saying they were weak, and that's why they're dead. She snaps back, reminding him he's not some top-ranked hero, and that means it's on him to protect the weaker ones in the group. Yasu gets heated, grabs her by the collar, and fires back, saying she's always been the class princess, so she can say things like that. But people like him, the ones who've always been looked down on, are finally rising up now that he's got the power. Suddenly, Kirihara and Sagu show up, telling Yasu to cut the nonsense. They tell him he's still a nobody, stuck at the bottom of the food chain, and it's clear why he'll never make it to the top, no matter how much power he's got. Yasu flips out, starts running his mouth again, trying to show off how edgy he's become. Sagu thinks they need to beat this fool up, but Kirihara tells him to let it go. Yasu then shows off his magical skill and confidently says he's the strongest among them, before leaving the area. Back in the cave, Eve tells Cirrus that she's going after Memori. Cirrus is worried about Eve going alone and asks her why she's heading out. Eve says she doesn't think Memori can handle all those demons by himself. Eve makes it clear she wasn't bluffing earlier when she said she could probably take on the demons alone. She says she's good at moving in the dark, thanks to her sharp senses and excellent hearing. Cirrus finally agrees to let Eve go, because she's also worried about Memori. Eve leaves Lisbeth in Cirrus' care and heads out to catch up with Memori and make sure he's okay on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Memori is causing chaos, using Pigimaru to cast a Berserk spell on a bunch of enemies, which makes them lose control and start fighting each other. Eventually though, the monsters under the spell die, and the ones still alive start chasing Memori again. This time, Memori casts a paralyzing spell, knocking down a few monsters at the front, but he realizes only the weaker ones have been killed so far, and the stronger ones are still right behind him. Then, it starts raining, which becomes a real problem, making it hard for him to see and hear clearly. Memori quickly opens his status bar and sees he's burning through his mana fast. To regain some mana, he knows he'll need to take down the stronger monsters in the middle. Without wasting time, he turns around and charges at them, with Slay crushing any monster in his path. Memori uses Pigimaru's arm extension again and casts a blindness spell. Then, he goes all out, throwing Berserk, blindness, and paralyzed spells at everything in his way as he fights his way toward the giant monster in the center. He notices that his mana is dropping fast, and if he doesn't take down this demon soon will be in trouble. With the clock ticking, he somehow manages to get within range and casts the Berserk spell on them along with a poison spell. That combo turns out to be just enough, as the monster slowly and painfully dies with blood pouring from its eyes. This ends up being a blessing because it refills Memori's mana to full. But he doesn't have time to relax, he keeps running, realizing that 2 huge monsters are still chasing him. He quickly takes out the smaller demons by casting a sleep spell, which leaves the two big ones alone, still coming after him. Memori tricks them into following Slay while he jumps behind them, then hits them with a paralyze spell and another berserk spell, taking them both down immediately. He gets a bunch of mana points again and keeps riding, but it feels like there's no end to the monsters. Another wave starts charging straight at him. Deciding to face them head-on, Memori starts casting every spell he's got, but it still isn't enough, and some of the monsters survive and knock him off his high horse. Surrounded, with the monsters closing in from all sides, he keeps spamming spells one after the other, killing everything around him, but he's still wondering if that's gonna be enough. Meanwhile, Kashima, one of the hero students, is sitting on the ground, terrified right in front of a dead demon. That's when Eve shows up and wonders what a human is doing out here. Suddenly, another girl emerges from the woods and tries to hit Eve with a lightning strike. Eve manages to block the attack, but the girl, Itsuki, follows up with a second combo, catching Eve off guard. Thinking Eve is just another demon, Itsuki tells her to get ready as she lunges at her with her sword fully prepared to kill Eve. Eve's throat is locked up from the shock, so she can't say a word right now, but she's got enough strength to move around, though she's moving way slower than before. Itsuki's stunned that Eve could survive her lightning strike, but as the fight keeps going, Itsuki's getting faster, sharper, and Eve's struggling to keep up. Eve's about to have her throat run through when, at the very last second, Itsuki's sister steps in and tells her to chill. Itsuki's relieved Hijiri showed up, but she's confused why she told her to stop right when she was about to take out this beast. Hijiri clears it up, saying Eve ain't no monster, even if they might have thought she was. Hijiri knows about the beast people in this world and that they're just as smart as humans, which means they could still talk things out. Itsuki ain't convinced, thinking Eve won't negotiate since she hasn't said a thing the whole time, but Hijiri reminds her that her power keeps people from talking. Eve literally can't say anything. That's when it clicks for Itsuki, realizing she might have gone a little too far. She straight up apologizes to Eve for attacking out of nowhere. While she's saying sorry, Eve starts feeling better about the whole thing, thinking these folks might not be so bad, and maybe she won't have to throw down anymore. Hijiri asks Eve if she's cool with letting this slide without holding it against them, and Eve's good with it. Before they part ways, Hijiri introduces herself as one of the humans from another world. She already knows about Eve's rep as a bloodsport fighter. Having heard the stories, Hijiri figures that if Eve's out here in the middle of nowhere, she's probably looking for someone. Eve confirms she's hunting for her master, and that gets Hijiri curious because it means her master survived the monster stampede. Now she's even more interested in this person Eve calls master. Meanwhile, Memori's still holding the line against the monsters, but when he tries to cast Paralyze again, Pigemaru's out of juice. Instead, he uses sleep and poison to take down the last monster. Memori's still got plenty of mana in the tank, but Pigemaru is tapped out from all the work, so Memori breaks their link and lets Pigemaru rest. He also tells Slay not to push himself too hard. If Slay needs a breather, Memori's got it covered on his own. Memori's got a few scrapes, but overall, he's hanging in there, and according to his status, he's even hit level 2000. That sounds cool and all, but leveling up ain't healing his wounds, so he's gonna hit his breaking point soon. There's still one more beast left, and it's probably one of those human-faced creatures. Memori can't do a thing while it's out of sight, and the monster knows that. So when it charges at him, it keeps its face hidden and starts blasting a bunch of laser beams to mess up his focus. One of those beams hits Memori and Slay, dropping both of them to the ground. Slay's done running and Memori calls on Pigemaru for one last job. The monster fires another round of lasers, stirring up a massive dust cloud, making it impossible for Memori to use Paralyze. But while the monster's scanning the ground for him, it gets thrown off by Memori's helmet, thinking he's about to sneak attack from behind. It spins around ready to counter, but standing there isn't Memori, it's Pigemaru. Memori's actually up above. By the time the monster figures it out, it's already paralyzed. Memori gives the beast credit it was smart, but in trying to keep him from getting a clear shot, it forgot to keep track of his position, which is how Memori got the upper hand. Memori might have won, but he's messed up bad from all the hits. He's praying there's no more fights ahead. The monster finally dies, and Memori levels up again. This time his paralyzed skill levels up too, and he unlocks an advanced move. Memori's hyped to hear about the advanced skill, but checking it out will have to wait till he gets back. He doesn't want to hang around outside any longer. Just then, he hears some rustling in the bushes. It might not be a big monster, but with the shape Memori's in, he can't handle another fight. Things are looking grim until Eve shows up right in time, slicing a wolf in half and telling Memori she's here to take him back. Since he can barely move, Eve picks Memori up and carries him on her back as they make their way back to the cave. On the way, she fills him in about her run-in with Hijiri, Itsuki, and Kashima, but she makes sure to let him know she didn't spill anything that could give him away. Memori tells her she did the right thing because even if those three aren't bad people, their ties to the goddess could mess up his revenge plan. The best thing is for everybody to keep thinking he's long gone. After a few minutes, Eve and Memori finally get back to the cave, and Lisbeth and Cirrus are all smiles, happy to see he made it. Once they settle in, Eve heads back out to keep watch for the night. Memori feels bad, apologizing for making her do it since she's probably worn out too. Eve brushes it off, saying she's fine and that Memori's in way worse shape than her. Not long after she heads out, Cirrus finishes patching up Memori's injuries. He thanks her for looking out, but Cirrus isn't done yet. She offers to fix up his jacket since it got shredded in the fight. Memori lets her handle it and tries to lay down, but despite being dead tired, he can't sleep. Cirrus sees this and figures it's a good chance to help more, so she offers to let him rest his head on her lap. At first, Memori doesn't think she's serious and tells her to go rest herself, but Cirrus won't back down. Eventually, he agrees and lays his head on her thighs. This takes Memori back. He hasn't slept on someone's lap since his aunt, and that was ages ago. As he closes his eyes, Cirrus gently holds his head, telling him he doesn't have to carry everything on his own. When the monsters attacked all at once, Memori acted like he was sure they'd make it out alive, which put Eve and Lisbeth at ease. But Cirrus saw through it. She knew he was faking the whole time, and she was worried. She warns him that if he keeps pushing himself this hard, eventually, it's gonna catch up with him. Cirrus is set on having his back, making sure he doesn't break under the pressure. All she asks is that when things get too heavy, he comes to her. Memori appreciates what Cirrus is saying, though he kinda feels like she's being a little too protective. He jokes around, saying she's like the big sister he never had, and that makes Cirrus laugh. That reminds her, though she's been curious how old is Memori anyway. Memori tells her he's 17, and Cirrus is caught off guard, realizing he's younger than her. Memori thought he'd be the younger one, assuming Cirrus being an elf had to be at least 100. But Cirrus surprises him by saying she's only 19. She admits she thought Memori was in his early 20s. Even though she now knows Memori's younger, it doesn't change how she sees him. He's still her lord. Eventually, Memori drifts off to sleep and Cirrus is glad he's finally getting some rest. But once he's out, things take a turn. She's trying to put him down carefully, but then she slips on the sheets and ends up in a weird position. She's getting way too close to kissing Memori, and it hits her that this is all kinds of wrong, so she stops herself just in time. A little while later, Memori wakes up and sees Cirrus is still awake. He asks if she's having trouble sleeping, and she says yes, so he helps her out by using his sleep skill. Memori decides not to mention what he saw, but he knows exactly what happened and realizes Cirrus has feelings for him he didn't catch on to before. Meanwhile, Kashima is heading back with Itsuki and Hijiri, and Itsuki's got something on her mind. She doesn't get why Kashima's rolling with Asagi's crew. From her perspective, Kashima's vibe seems way more aligned with Sagu than Asagi, so she asks why Kashima sticks with Asagi. Kashima explains that back when they were going through the trials, she couldn't bring herself to kill the monster Asagi had caught for her, so Asagi did it instead and told her that now she's part of the family, with a little inappropriate behavior thrown in. Kashima knows Asagi's dangerous, but something about Asagi's wild ways feels like the wake-up call Sagu's been talking about. Back with Memori and the crew, they're closing in on the witch's territory. Cirrus seems deep in thought, so Memori asks her what's up. She admits there's something she wants to tell him, but she's not ready yet, so she'll spill it some other time. Cirrus doesn't realize that Memori already knows how she feels, and Memori plans to keep it that way for now. As long as things stay cool until his mission's done, he's good with it. The crew finally reaches the witch's territory and stumbles across an old magic seal on a tree. Memori's on edge, thinking it might trigger a trap, but Cirrus assures him there's nothing to worry about since it looks like the seal hasn't been touched in ages. But as they push deeper into the witch's land, they come across another magic seal. This one's still active. A golem pops up, most likely placed there to block intruders. Memori paralyzes it, but decides not to break it since he doesn't want to wreck the witch's stuff. They keep moving further in until they reach a spot with no monsters at all. This has to be where the witch is staying. They enter a small cabin and find a hidden passage under the carpet. Going down into the basement, they run into a bunch of small golems, but these ones aren't paying them any mind, so Memori doesn't bother with them either. The last thing standing between them and their goal is a door with a magic lock. The only thing stopping people from getting through is that the lock needs a massive amount of magic to open. That would stop most folks, but Memori's magic is more than enough to get it open. Meanwhile, back with Kashima and the sisters, they return to camp, and Ayaka feels a huge wave of relief seeing Kashima safe. But before Ayaka can reach her, Asagi steps in, talking about how worried she was for Kashima, even though she didn't lift a finger to help. Kashima knows Asagi's playing her games, but she's got to deal with it a little longer until she gets strong enough to stand on her own. On a different note, Hijiri's glad they found Kashima before she got hurt. The assassins sent after them were probably there to take out some of the weaker kids in class, all under vicious orders. The goal is to make Ayaka doubt her ability to protect others, hoping that would cause the class to fall apart. Back with Memori's group, the door they open leads to a room where they can see the sky, even though they're still underground. How that's happening is a mystery, but they focus on the woman who steps out of the house. She introduces herself as Erika, and sure enough, she's the Witch of Taboos. With that, Memori's one step closer to his ultimate goal, getting revenge on Vicious. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this recap, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or tweaks, share them in the comments. They help me improve.